What is going on, guys? Sean Don coming back with a technical analysis. Here we have Hannah Link, newest member of the Sean Don coaching squad, if you will. This is her in-depth technical analysis sort of introduction, if you will, to her technical membership for the month. So she's a graduate student at Baylor. She's been throwing hammer for, I think, just over a year and a half, maybe 2 years, if I read her information correctly. I'm going to take a look at two different videos, this one and this one, and one of them I think has a better depiction of what I think I'd want the throw to look like, and the second one is a little bit more of, things that I think could be cleaned up. So this is the good one to start, in my opinion. Let's take a look. Yes, very solid, straight down the circle, straight down the middle on the release. Pretty solid, a little bit of rhythm, acceleration towards the end. So yeah, very solid for just having started a little around 2 years ago, under 2 years ago. So what I like about this throw is, like I said, the direction. Pretty good connection coming through on entry, and it just looks like all of your energy is kind of directed towards 180. If you look at the direction of the body in double support, it goes back towards 180 and then forward towards 180 in single support, and then very nice, solid, stable release. So yeah, you definitely have a very solid technical foundation, in my opinion. Of you can turn with the hammer. You're learning 4 turns. Your toe turn looks good. There's nothing crazy. You're not going super hard. You're not pulling that left shoulder. So things are pretty solid overall. That being said, though, I think there is one big thing that I think if you could figure out, and unfortunately, it's not going to be a quick fix. But if you do figure it out, it's going to bump you up from throwing, like you said, your PR is around 55. If you figure it out, and then you get a little bit technically stronger, a little bit specifically stronger, then like you'll be throwing. You said your goal was to open up over 60 next year. I think that's going to be very possible, and then 65 might also be in the cards as well if you can figure this out. So we shall look at the other video to get into that stuff. So this one I think is still decent, but it just accentuates a little bit more of what could go wrong. First, in the direction of where the release is, down that left sector line, that's an indicator that something is not quite right. And then also it's very subtle, but if you look at the change in the orbit, specifically the high point, you can see in 3 and especially 4, you see the ball high point grow kind of towards that left sector line. Very subtle, but it is there. Yep. So we'll break this one down a little bit better, and I'll let you know what to work on to start with. So the big thing, I think we need to adjust your entry a little bit. I like that your head is facing the right. That is talking from your perspective, of course. I think that is great for teaching patience and allowing the body to really connect with the ball. A lot of people like to lead with their head and their left shoulder. And because of that, they don't really quite connect like they need to. But as you can see, with his head facing right, you can see the whole body start to turn with the hammer, which is pretty solid. The big thing in the entry that I would want to change, and let's say, I'm going to go back and watch the lines one more time. Yeah. Okay, so the lines are decent, nothing really stands out glaring. The only thing that I don't like is the right elbow kind of dropping down or pulling down depending on what you think about or what you feel in the throw. But as you can see, this right elbow is really close towards that rib cage, towards that side. And it's going to kind of be the same thing as you come through here in the entry as well. Not as much as the previous wind, but I think with this right elbow, right arm down and left arm up, left shoulder up, it makes it hard to connect earlier with the hammer. So as you can see, both arms start to straighten out just as ball gets to 0, but then your whole body doesn't really connect until about 2 frames later. Ideally, you'd want to be connected at 0, if not just slightly beforehand, meaning both arms are relaxed, straight out, and then body starts turning with it. So, I think Pavel Fidek, the Polish thrower, is a very good person to watch in terms of keeping the hands up and out and away from the body in the winds. That's kind of who I watched, study that stuff. Because you do a good job reaching forwards, it looks like here, letting the hammer, and you're kind of combing your hair, reaching back pretty solid. I just think you need to reach that right hand out a little bit more towards 180 there, and then also out to the right as well, once again talking from your perspective. It gets closer, but I think if you were to think about this right elbow up a little bit more, it would help out connection just a little bit. Sorry for clearing my throat. The coffee has jostled some things. But yeah, so this right elbow pulling down makes you connect a little bit late. And then as you can see, I think this right leg could be much more active through the entry as well. It doesn't really start turning until after the ball passes it. That being said, though, it is fairly stable. It gives in just a little bit as the ball goes through 0. You want to see that right knee be pretty stiff. This is more so for the turns, but in the entry as well. If that knee kind of gives in, that means you're kind of giving into the hammer a little bit as well. So connection. Like I said, you're turning with the hammer pretty well, but you just connect a little bit late. So additionally, you rise up a little bit in single sport. You can see this left leg kind of straighten out just a bit. And then because of that, if you go up when the hammer goes up, that's going to make you catch a little bit late on the next turn. If you catch a little bit late on the next turn, then that's going to be a game of you're kind of playing catch up with the hammer at that point. If you rise when the hammer rises and you catch a little bit late, then all of a sudden you lose tension a little bit, and then it's like a cascade of things that are going to happen afterwards in order to keep tension with the hammer. And that's kind of what happens in this throw, and then also happens in a few of the other throws that you sent me as well. It even happens a little bit in the good throw, but you just time it up a little bit better, so it's less dramatic. So, like I said, work on that right elbow and entry. You're going to try to stay down a little bit in this first single support. Try not to rise up with the hammer. And then when you catch, your hips could be a little bit more underneath you. This right hip specifically could be more over the right foot, and this left shoulder could be, the left shoulder's okay. The first catch posture is not such a huge thing to worry about most of the time, but it's what you do from here that really matters. You can see very relaxed scapulas, shoulder blades, shoulders nice and relaxed, very good, reaching towards the sector. But then you catch, perhaps a little narrow, but you are a little bit shorter, so not a huge deal. You catch, and then really solid first double support, sorry. You catch, heel comes down nice and early, that's great. It's pretty solid. Everything together at 0. A little tension up in the left shoulder, not a big deal. And then I think it's from here is what kind of goes wrong. So left shoulder, left hip, left knee, left foot, nice and stable. Right side all together, right leg, right femur, hammer wire, hammer ball, all kind of in the same line. This is great. Solid there. And this is where things kind of go a little bit astray. It's really these like 3-4 frames in here what you need to do is get this right hip to work up into the ball. So kind of think like clean and snatch. That triple extension when when the bar contacts your hips, you push through your toes, or yeah, I guess foot, ankle, knee, hip, um, and extend up, and that's kind of what delivers the force up into the bar when you're doing an Olympic lift. When you're doing a hammer throw, you want this right foot, knee, ankle, hip to kind of extend up as the ball is going towards the sector. You're turning with it, but then you're just a little bit too upright with your torso. You could get your hips a little bit more forwards and perhaps, or even shoulders a little bit further back, so you can really leverage your hips up into the ball as it goes towards the sector. Like I said, still pretty straight up and down here, where you could get a little bit more counterclockwise tilt that exerts a little bit more torque on the ball, and then because of that, it'll accelerate through single support when most people think it doesn't. It's sort of advanced hammer physics to think about. But pretty much right hip needs to get up into the hammer. You can reach this right hip towards the hands, and then that'll help out as well. You can see though, because, and I think this is the interesting shot right here. So if you look at the level of your shoulders and the level of your hips are tilted slightly downwards, counterclockwise, I would say, and then your shoulders are tilted a little bit clockwise. So they're not quite on the same plane, which means there's a little disconnect between the body. And you can see the same thing here, a little bit. Here I think I can draw a line. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, so you have this plane there, and then that plane there. Just a little bit disconnected between the body. You'd want them to be on the same plane. So moving forwards, it gets a little bit more accentuated here, and then your catch, you can see there's once again same thing, a little bit of disconnect between the body. You'd want this left shoulder down a little bit more, just like the left hip, and then that would connect you a little bit better and give you a little bit more pressure. You catch pretty early on this turn, but same thing, hips are a little bit out. As you proceed through the throw, you want the right hip to be more underneath you, and you want this left shoulder to be back more over this left hip. But you're still just a little heavy over that right side because all of your tension is pulling you that way because of that kind of late connection earlier on in the throw. Heel comes down though, nice and early. Body's turning pretty well. This position is very good once again, but same thing, this right hip's going to lag out a little bit there. It gets closer, but you need more of that earlier on in the throw, and then it needs to continue to build throughout the throw as well. And then same thing, this sort of negative hip angle there, shoulders level. You're not quite getting, like I said, that counterclockwise tilt through the torso. And then same thing, hips a little bit back, left shoulder out over this right leg instead of over the left leg. Right hip needs to be underneath you a little bit more, and then you can see as you kind of come down, there's just a disconnect between the body and your hands. And you see this left side start to pull up and tighten a little bit more to keep that tension with the hammer. You see this left leg straighten out a little bit more. And then you can see once again a weird tilt between the shoulders, left shoulder very high, right shoulder kind of down, but hands also tilted opposite of that, where your hands are kind of turned clockwise. I would say maybe try turning your hands a little bit more counterclockwise. Perhaps Kidboy Johnson is a good example of that, but he does it a little bit more on the extreme end of the spectrum. Not saying it's a bad thing, just saying it's different. Might be something to think about. Almost better position here, but same thing. Tilt in the shoulders, tilt in the hips, going opposite ways, a little disconnect in the body. And then you catch, once again, pretty solid, but left shoulder going very up to keep that tension through the finish. And then you do stand up a little bit prematurely through the legs. Yeah. So, this was quite long-winded, but pretty much The only things I want you to focus on for now are keeping this right elbow up in the winds and the entry so you can connect earlier off to the right side more towards 270 as opposed to 0. And then from there, try not to rise up in this first catch. Stay down in that first single support. And then from there, just try to feel that right hip more underneath you and connected to your hands and to the hammer. So that's what I would focus on for now. Let me know if you have any questions. Hannah, happy to help. That's what I'm here for. If anybody else out there would like a technical analysis, go to Sean Donnelly. Oh, wait, that's not my website anymore. Never mind. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Email me at sdonnelly757@gmail.com, and we can get your technical analysis. Comment down below, whatever it takes. Just contact me, and we'll get to work. So, thanks for watching. Sean Don, peace and out. Until next time, goodbye.